Hello, welcome to a tutorial on Python. We're gonna run from the basics all the way to something that could be a full application. What I would highly recommend doing is learning how to study properly. So go to Justin Sung's channel and check Learn How to Learn. It walks you through the process of encoding and retrieval because most people will passively study tutorials like this. I would highly suggest making stuff like mind maps and stuff like that. So to first get started with Python, obviously you want to have Python installed. I will not show you how to install Python, so you can go and look on YouTube how to install it. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code. You can use anything else, it doesn't matter. Just make sure it works and you have your Python interpreter set up. And if you have a problem with that, I will not fix it. You can go fix it and watch YouTube. So first, you want to obviously have your folder, which will have your Python files. So in your folder, you may want to name it. I'm going to call it phase 2. And in my folder, I will call it main.py. You can call it whatever you want. Just remember that .py is really like your file type, right? If you have .txt, then obviously that's going to be a text file, right? I click on text document and I type something like name, and this is name.txt. Now I open this one. You can see it's the text file. I can write whatever I want. Obviously, this will not run as code because it's a text file. Unless it would like have code and then I wanted to run at something, then it would run as that. But it's not going to do that because it's a text file. Right, so you got to remember this is our language, Python. Right, this is not Java because Java would be something different. Right, Java we may have something like public static void main string args or whatever. And in there, you do need to be a little bit more specific, even in terms of the variables. The good thing in Python is a little bit easier, I would say, because the naming is a little bit different here. Like you don't really need to specify int or string per se, right? So yeah, that's that. So first, for our basic program, we're gonna pretty much just display it on the actual screen. What does that mean? So first you have to understand what is a terminal, what is a shell, and what is a console. So think about this. A room, what's a room? You obviously know what a room is. A room is a place where you enter and it's probably empty or maybe there's stuff in it, right? So that's kind of like a terminal, right? So it's a room. Um, and then you have the specific shell, okay? So that's something like command CMD, which I'll get into in a second, right? Also, this is also command prompt, right? So these two are sort of do different things if you think about it. cmd.exe and then command prompt. So command prompt, okay? So this is our shell, and this is like the tool that you have, which is gonna be in that room, okay? And then you have the person or the probably in that room, which is uh, going to be the console. So it's tool is the so again tool is the shell and then people is the console. So this is like within your IDE itself, right? Your integrated development environment. That's probably like the panel where you have your like output screen, right? So when we're usually talking about console in that context, people usually mean just the terminal itself. So it's kind of pretty much fine to sort of interchange them in that sense. But if I type like command prompt, right, it's gonna open the command prompt window. And so inside that command prompt is going to be our shell. So let's assume this is our shell, right? It's inside it, right? So that's why, command prompt can sort of refer to this and also this. Terminal is the window app, also like the text screen, but again, you can sort of interchange those sort of things. So that's what it is, okay? And then you have in our command thing, we could potentially make our file actually run if you want. So you don't really need specifically in IDE for that, but obviously IDE is nice because you can have your syntax checked. So syntax is what? Syntax refers to the specific rules of, let's say, that language. So like, let's say we have, I don't know, uh, you have Japanese or something, right? So I'm just gonna write JP. So let's say in this language, we have grammar or whatever. That's kind of like syntax pretty much like is, right? Kind of like that in a sense. Okay. Um, so first you would want to first have your file main.py, right? As we established. And so what is that file gonna have, right? Obviously you're gonna have like functions or whatever. So we're gonna have for just for the starter point, we're gonna have a print function. Um, so what's a print function? It just displays on our sort of console, right? That's what we talked about, right? So like when you open the IDE, you have like that sort of the window which has the output of whatever you have. So we're gonna write print. You're gonna write the brackets, and then you're gonna do double quotes, and you're gonna have whatever message you want. We'll just write hello world, okay? And then you just end it with a brown bracket. So this hello world will display, inside our whatever here, our console, right? Let me show you. Okay, first I have a Visual Studio open. So you would just click File, Open Folder, and then just click the folder. So I obviously have it open, so I'm not gonna open it again. So first, to make our first basic program, we're going to display hello world onto the terminal right here, or console. So we type print, and so this is pretty much a function. You're not going to display, right? So you just type hello world, and no need for a semicolon like this because this is not Java. And so in Python, we kind of really think about the indentation, so that how much like kind of like spacing in a sense. You'll see later. So click run, um, and then you click without debugging because we're not debugging, right? We're not trying to fix errors. So we just wait for this to load, and see it says here hello world, right? So that's your basic message. From there, let's suppose I want to store this message in a variable. So what's a variable? A variable is quite simple, right? Let's suppose I have, something like x. Let's say I put 5. Uh, Here, obviously, I set x to the value of 5. So this 5 value, therefore, is stored in this one. Or you could say it's a reference to that specific value, right? Um, so then, let's say I could write 50, for example. So hence it's variable, like in the name itself, variable. You can pretty much, we can change the value. It's not necessarily a fixed value, which would be something like a constant, which, I mean, that's a little bit something like, kind of like a fixed value. But anyways, for the sake of explanation, um, variable obviously means something they can change, right? In a sense. So that's why I put 50. And you could put 500, 5,000, whatever number you want specifically. The thing in Python obvious is that I don't need to write like int or whatever. I can just change, whatever value I want this to have. So let's say I want to put a set of characters. That would be called a string. Um, so whenever you have like a set of characters, that pretty much is really, just a string, right? So let's say I put the same hello world, okay? Now this variable, stores whatever message I have. And then let's say I print that variable. What do you think is going to happen? Then whatever message this x had, you know, that would be displayed onto our terminal screen, right? And the same kind of goes for like if I put a number, for example, that's still going to show here. If you're that is printing it, right? So let's see what happens. If I put, let's just call it, we can call the variable whatever we want. So since this is like a message, let's just say message, and then I write hello world. Okay. and then now I type print message. Click run, and without debugging, there you go. It didn't really change anything. What happens if I want to print this message twice, but I want to change a little bit? Let's say I don't want it to say hello world anymore. I want it to say hello universe, and I want to add an exclamation point. Then you print this again, and then it prints the same thing again, right? Okay, if I print this message onto the screen, it's clearly a messed up text. But let's say I want to fix it. Then I would type print message dot title, which would then sort of capitalize the first letter of each word. If I click run, you're going to see what happens here. It doesn't work properly. Because for methods, you're supposed to have the parentheses there. It would see it says method title store objects because it's expecting the parentheses for the proper method call, and then we print it, run it, and then it fixes it down. Okay, so let's say I type upper, not like the upper lower split, but this is capitalizing um the word. Click on run without debugging, and you can clearly see all of the letters are uppercase. But let's say I type lower. You can guess what happens. It makes it lowercase, right? See? And then see the other one, it printed the capital of every single word. So this is useful. Let's say I want to have some specific format, then you would do this. Okay? Okay, let's say I don't want this word. I want this gone, right? I could do something like, message dot remove prefix. Okay? And what's the prefix? Well, let's type it. Now we have World George. I want to remove this awkward spacing from here. You can just type, and let's say I just want this gone. I don't really care about this. Then you just type message, which is the variable name, and then you type L strip because that's the left side. So, and then we just do this, and we can print this because we want it to be on the screen, and then I click run without debugging, and then you can clearly see it remove the left side of the spacing. And if it's R, it's going to remove the right side of the spacing. But what happens if I just do a normal like stripping of the text? Then you click run, it will remove both sides of the spacing or whatever. So that's the thing. Again, this is not this stuff isn't really stored in the variable. So if I just printed message, after this, it would just print the original string. So then you would have to store this in some other variable or the same variable, right? So just message equals this, remove this, and then that. So if I click run now and I print, message after this. So first, now I printed the actual variable, which has this, capitalized. And the second time it did still remove the extra spacing that was there. Okay, let's say now this is removed now hello. But at the same time, let's say I want to add on to this extra message, but I don't really like, I want to leave this as is or something, or I want to make some change. Then you could just boot up the variable, or let's just print it. So print message. That's the message. Let's say I want to add like, I don't know, John before. So I write John. You type that. And then now, let's say I want to just directly merge with this John, right? I will put plus. So this means there's not going to be any extra spacing when you put plus. If I would put comma, there's going to be spacing. So let's see. If I print run, first you see the hello is clearly gone, right? Again, it matters if you have yes, it's case sensitive, so it matters if it's misspelled correctly or even one extra space, right? So it added John, and you can clearly see it merged it directly, like it did not add any extra spacing. But if I add comma, you're gonna see this. It adds extra spacing here. But let's say I want to use comma and then I just want to add like I don't know, uh, pop or something. And you can make to make the comma sort of act like the plus sign with no extra spacing. You could just write separation equals whatever this is. Okay, yeah. So you can see it didn't really add the extra spacing. What if I just write like S? You see that the spacing before it was blank, so therefore it didn't add anything. But now when I added the S, which is the separation point, you can add an S between the space. Let's say this is a game I want to greet the user. Even though we're not entering the user's name directly, let's suppose we are. So then I would type my name. Let's say it's in this variable, and I type John. And then you have your last name. So let's just write L name, and then I type um Doe. Okay, let's just write it like this for now. I'll just write F, and let's say now I wanna join this together into one variable, and then I wanna call it full name. So then you would use something called a F string. Inside this variable, F is just the format, so that's what F string is. You would just write F, and then whatever message you have, and then you just put it inside here. And then like let's say I have the variables out, the curly brace. So let's just say this is the curly brace. Okay. And then you would have the name or whatever variable you call it inside here. So it's something that's good for formatting because it can sort of join together strings and have information together. So it's useful for that purpose. Okay. So I type full name and I type F, so the F string, and then my quotation marks, and then put in curly braces, and I type my variable name, and then that's the variable name. And then let's say I want to put my last name, and then I put this down. If I don't put spacing, it won't space, it will just join it together. So let's put spacing, and then I click print, and then let's say I wanna say hello to my uh my user. I will put an F string again, and then I put my variable in brackets, curly braces. I type full name. Okay, let's just write here. So you can see it's not defined because I changed the name, so it has to be case sensitive. Now I click run. It said hello John Doe. So you can see I put comma and then E, so added the extra space and then E, right? So that's adding another string onto our already F string. Oops. So in Python or any language, if we have a print statement and I type like I use one apostrophe and I type John, John's, oops, let's say Jaws, Jaws, I don't know, E. So this will not work properly because you already have apostrophe here. So it doesn't really know where it's going to end for that reason. So that's why we're going to use escape characters for that purpose, right? So what are escape characters? So escape characters are like sequences, like a backward slash, not a front slash, and it tells Python like, hey, make the characters um, treat them a special way, right? And says this is likely going to be inside a string, which is a set of characters. You may go to the next line with this tab, or the quote, like if I have Joe's, and then it would say, okay, this is not talking about the end of the string. This is actually just something that would be a normal apostrophe, so you skip it pretty much. So an example would be if I type print and I write Joe's and I type Joe's E, it says error because it's not proper. This isn't proper. And I type backslash and I print this. I type Joe's E. And let's say I want to go to the next line for E. I put slash N, which is next line, and there it goes to the next line. And let's say I want to also put a tab. See, there you go. And let's say I want to put tab here. There, added the extra space. You can also have decimal numbers, which would be called floats, right? So you could do like x equals 5.0, and I want to divide this by 2. So whenever you have a float, a point number, and you're like dividing it or adding it or doing something with in terms of operations with a normal integer, then it's gonna default to adding a decimal point, and as long as there's one decimal number, right? So you can see we got the same result for this because even if it's a normal integer, it's still gonna give you the floating point answer. If you don't want that, we can just put extra slash, which is the 4 division, which is sort of the rounding down thing. And there you go, you got 2. And I can do like round, round 5/2. We have constants which are sort of fixed things. So in Python you don't really have like specific type which is constant. It's just we capitalize to say okay, this is constant. Like I don't know, cap, unchanged, unchanged number like 5,000, and then I type, let's say I type this again, and then I print. It worked even though I capitalized. Why? Because Python doesn't really care about it. It's mainly for like developers to say, okay, don't change this. Okay. We also have comments. So what are comments? Comments are like comments. You're telling yourself, you're telling yourself or the person uh something about your code. So you want comments ideally because if you have long parts of code, maybe you'll come back later on and then you won't know what's happening. So that's why you need comments. So you do the hash symbol, right? And then this comment isn't really read. So if I put 5 plus 3 or something, and I write, let's say I do this number equals this, and I print num, it's not gonna recognize it because this is a comment, right? So, but let's give some more. Let's go through some examples. Let's say I want to print John 3 plus 4, which is gonna be 7, and then I want to do like another line at the end, or another line at the end, and I want to do something like I wanted to also print the next line, so E milk, and then in capitals, and then you want another line where it says milk is good, and it's four circles. So how would you do this? So let's the easiest way to do this is probably to store variables, or you could do separate, but I would want to do variables. So let's say I have variable one. So let's just write v1 or something like that, and then I type John 3 plus 4. So now if I print this, it says John 3 plus 4 equals, and this is v2. So let's say I want to add, and I don't want to add spacing, so I'll just do v2. Now I print this, printed cannot concatenate stir not into stir. Why does it say this? Because it's clearly a different type. So you'd have to convert to print together. So How do you convert string integer to string? You do str, put brackets, and that's gonna convert it to string, right? Click run without debugging, and there you go. You could also just do this. I don't want spacing. A plus stir, which is converting. And put 3 plus 4, and then now, so yeah, because now it's not defined anymore. So now we'll remove this. Now I click run. There you go. If I want to, let's say I just want only milk to be uppercase, but I want print. What you can just do is take away this. You put colon, and then the index in which I want to start from, or something like that. So here, so any language pretty much starts the index from 0. So unlike, we would say, okay, this is index 1, 2, 3, but not coding languages. They would say 0. So we start from 0. 0, 1, oops, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7. And then I type this. Let's see what happens. I want from EE, which is index 7, so not 6. So to make 6 index 6, not the one that is affected, we can just make the 6. So then that's anything from 0 to index 6. This, then you click run, and then you might be like, why is it saying K? Because we did -1. So it prints till index 6, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's till this index 6 it will print. That's why we start from index 6 and not 7. Make sense? Okay. Okay, next I want to print milk is good. So now I'll make it v3 equals milk is good. And then now I'm gonna add on to this. So we'll add our escape character. And then I'll do a separate one. So v3, we want to make it capital for everything. So we'll start counting from the indexes. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I wrote the same thing again. Then you type till 8, click run, and then milk is. And then I want to make this uppercase, so we'll do dot title, and then put this. I click run, and then it does this, and then I want to make good uppercase, so then plus v3, start from 8 till the end, dot upper, and then you do this, and then you click run, and there you go. Okay, so let's just, I'm gonna make this a little bit more easable to read. Okay, and if you run it, it's not gonna make a difference because it's still inside here. But this can get complicated for stuff like this. That's why if you wanna make it more simple, you could just store it inside the variable itself. But that's how this will be. Okay. So the last one is if you just type import this, and I run this. This is like an Easter egg within Python, which is like sort of like the rules, I guess you could say, or like philosophy of Python. Oh yeah,